Almost too big sometimes.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous getting it so young.
Yeah.
We limit it so she's not
Yeah.
staring at the whole, but it's, yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna have Frozen memorized. I think by the end of the week. She's watched that 100 times.
You don't have your gavel.
Frozen's her favorite.
You go, John.
Got the-
That's 6 o'clock.
There's VHS.
I'm watching.
1 minute. I got 6.
Glory days.
Yeah.
You're not.
I say that was the 90s. It's my last decade. I couldn't play any movies that were all
My meeting would have started already.
Those-
Okay, at 6 p.m., we'll call the meeting in order. We'll start the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have roll call, please.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Thank you, Maureen. Have we had any citizens sign up to speak? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to student reps report. Maddie, what's new this month?
So at the end of last December, we had the Madrigal dinner, which was a big success for the drama department. And then we had winter break, so we just came back last Monday. On last Friday, our DECA hosted the district competition at Midstate, and I know quite a few kids placed in that are now headed to state. We are approaching midway through our second trimester, and the student council's winter dance, fire, and ice is coming up. That will be in the beginning of February. Our sports teams are doing pretty good this winter. I know our wrestlers have really had a good record so far. And the National Honor Society book drive is coming up soon, this January too.
All right, thank you. I know, got to attend the Madrigal. It was a lot of fun. I know there was several young men that probably were grateful they had masks on when they were doing their men in tights dance. It was quite hilarious, but it was fun. So thank you for the report. We can now move on to approval of the minutes.
I move that the minutes from the Special Board of Education meeting closed session December 8, 2021, and the regular Board of Education meeting December 13, 2021, and the Special Board of Education meeting open and closed December 13, 2021 be approved as printed.
Second.
We have motion and second to approve the minutes from the Special Board of Education meeting closed session of December 8th, the regular Board of Education meeting of December 13th, and the Special Board of Education meeting open and closed session on December 13th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Move into committee reports. Mary asked me to give the Ed Services Committee report. We called the meeting in order at 6 o'clock. There was no public comment. We have one actionable item. The open enrollment space determination limits for the 22-23 school year. Roxanne Filtz, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, explained that in accordance with state statutes, non-resident school boards are required to determine the number of regular and special education spaces that will be available within the district at their January meeting. A determination by the administration has been made that no regular education open enrollment space limitations are recommended for the 22-23 school year, with the exception of Central Oaks Academy Charter School. The COA Governance Board set enrollment caps as outlined in their charter school contract, and the board approved the proposed caps at the December 13th, 2021 meeting. Elizabeth Van Berkel, the Assistant Director of Pupil Services, reviewed special education open enrollment spaces available for the 22-23 year based upon the available programs and services as followed. Early childhood 4K, there will be 4 spaces available. Speech and language here at the middle school will be 6. Speech and language at the high school, there will be 2. And with that, the committee recommends and I move approval. The Board of Education not designate any space limitations for regular education open enrollment students for the 22-23 school year, with the exception of Central Oaks Academy enrollment caps that were approved at the December 21 board meeting, and designate Specific space available in special education programming is indicated in the projected space available column.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve that motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The rest of the meeting, we had update on student travel. Roxy updated committee members, the planned travel for the Lincoln High School students who are involved in the annual Ag Department FFA fruit sale fundraiser. Jeremy Radke, the LHS FFA advisor and technology and agriculture teacher, plans to take the top 9 sellers from the sale to the world's toughest rodeo in Minneapolis, Minnesota on January 28th. And they'll be taking the school van, and they will not be staying overnight. And that was it for that meeting. With that, the committee recommends, and I move approval of the minutes from the Ed Service Committee meeting of January 3rd, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve the meeting minutes of the Ed Services Committee of January 3rd, 2022. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Business Services, John.
Thank you, John. Business Services met on January 3rd, 2022, and there was no public comment. We called the meeting to order at 6:15. Out of our meeting, we had 2 consent agenda items. The first was an iPad purchase, and Phil explained to us that the iPads are just a replacement rollout that we have to replace in the elementary classrooms. To be noted that Apple is still offering us a very good price. It's still under $300 per unit, and there is software involved with it. So the committee recommends, and I move to purchase 100 iPads from Apple in the amount of $31,150, which will be funded from the 21-22 technology referendum budget. Then our second item is the wax supply bid. Ed explained that Hilliard has awarded the 18-inch quarter refills and big T-bar applicators at a higher price due to specific product requirements. Delco quoted unacceptable alternative brand items for the bid. There was a question during our meeting about the amount of the bid and the reasoning behind it. So we asked for clarification. So the committee recommends, and I move to accept the proposals for wax supplies from NASCO in the amount of $19,054.96, Hilliard in the amount of $21,222.74, and Delco in the amount of $57, which will be funded from the 21-22 Buildings and Ground budget.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve BS1 and BS2. Can we have roll call, please, Marie?
Yes.
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 Yes. And the balance of our meeting, we had some purchasing update in regards to the quadplex. We did discuss the fact that the quadplex wasn't finished and that there are some payments being withheld due to that issue. And with that, I submit the balance of our meeting minutes for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve the meeting minutes of the Business Service Committee of January 3rd, 2022. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Those minutes are approved. Thank you for the report, John. Next, we have Personnel Services. Sandy.
Personnel Services met last Monday, January 3rd, and we had no public comment at that meeting, but from that meeting, we have 5 consent agenda items, and they are as follows. Number 1, the committee recommends, and I move to approve the 1 professional staff appointment. I want to note that this is a .5 FTE. For math, is a student teacher who will be under direct supervision. 2, the committee recommends, and I move to approve the 8 support staff appointments. 3, the committee recommends, and I move to approve the 1 professional staff resignation. This resignation is taken at the end of the school year. 4, the committee recommends, and I move to approve the 2 support staff resignations. 5, the committee recommends, and I move to approve a one-time stipend for the 2021-22, that's so hard to say, school year paid out of the Education for Homeless Children and Youth grant for Jenna Peterson, Lincoln High School, at $600. Carrie Seiler, River Cities High School, for $250. Tessa Gruzinski, Rams, $550. Samantha Ratke, Grant Think, $250. Barb Bondioli, Grove, Washington, Little, 4K, but not pitched, at $425. Sarah DeGuerre, Erie Hall, Woodside, COA, at $525. And Natalie Leroy at Mead and Pitches for $425. And what this is they're going to have a single point of contact for homeless people. And in our background, we had 11 points of what they were going to concentrate on and how they were going to work this position. Does anybody want any of those held out?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve PS1 through PS5. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
And then Brian Oswald, the Director of Human Resources, shared with the committee a class size report for both elementary and secondary level. And Brian, do you want to share that with the board, what the report was on the class size?
So it's nothing specific. There wasn't any issues in terms of class sizes at the secondary level. They're pretty much the same as they were 2 years ago. In terms of the elementary class sizes, we do have that ESSER dollar money going into 10 different teachers being added, which will obviously decrease the class sizes across the different buildings. Questions at all with class sizes?
Thank you, Brian.
Okay. And with that, I move that the minutes of the January 3rd Personal Services Committee meeting be approved as printed.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve the meeting minutes of the Personnel Service Committee of January 3rd, 2022. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Thank you, Sandy. Next item is agenda referrals, information requests. Anybody have anything this month? We can move on to.
Maybe.
Oh,
I was just reading in one of the elementary newsletters that this year, when we have kids out for extended period of time for quarantine or whatever, that there is something called virtual lack of progress. Is this taking place at all of our schools? That if they're not zooming in on their meetings, or if they're not doing their daily work, they're going to be looked at very quickly rather than later?
Yes, as an elementary principal group, the different elementary administrators have adopted the lack of progress in the hopes that students that are at home, we give them the ability to have a device at home. We've offered internet for those families that needed internet. This was a way for us to make sure that the kids, when they are home for extended periods of time, that they are able to Zoom into classrooms, they're able to take advantage of virtual learning so that they aren't falling behind. And it is something that is going on at all the different schools. It's something that was agreed upon by the elementary admin group.
And it's working?
For the most part, yes. I would say yes.
Okay, and if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, parents are contacted?
Correct.
Okay,
Sooner than later, so that we don't end up with the losses that we've had before.
okay, thank you.
okay, is there anything else? If not, we can move on to the legislative agenda. What's new this month, Troy?
All right, thank you, John. So it's a light month, legislatively speaking, not a lot going on, but I do have just a couple of pieces to mention for the next couple of weeks. The first piece is Senate President Chris Kapanga and Assembly Speaker Robin Voss have sent out a formal invite to Governor Tony Evers to deliver his 2022 State of the State address on February 15th at 7 o'clock. The invite is to deliver the address live and in person to a joint session of the legislature in the Assembly chambers. This is an annual address given by the governor where they lay out their top priorities and policy goals for the forthcoming year. So they've called on the governor to deliver that on the 15th. Just a couple more things to mention. Again, it's a lighter month. I would urge everybody to research and vote on February 15th, just about a month away from our primary election here locally. And lastly, I would wish everybody safe travels who's going to the convention next week.
Okay, thank you for the report, Troy. Next, we can move on to the bills.
I move that the receipts be noted and that the bills be paid as printed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second that the receipts be noted and bills paid as printed. We have roll call, please, Maureen?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you, Maureen. Moving into new business, first item, possible action on employee appointments, resignations, retirement requests. I see we have one.
We have one. This position was one that was in an unfilled resignation from the summer, and Greg Matthews, the person who has actually taken the position, was in it as a long-term sub. We've posted it a couple times. He applied, and obviously he's the one who got the position, so he is starting now as a full-time contracted teacher in that same position he's been in since the first day of school.
I'd make a motion to recommend the approval of the following professional staff appointment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the professional staff appointment as printed. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion and possible action on 2022 Wisconsin Association of School Boards resolutions.
As is the annual basis, we receive copies of the WASB resolutions, the timing of which always coincides with, a few weeks prior to the state convention, which is coming up here next week. John Bembo remains our delegate for the delegate assembly. I would argue there are probably fewer than there has been, although last year it was a virtual affair, was it not, John?
It was a virtual affair, and it took forever.
They are planning on having in-person convention this year in Milwaukee, and myself, John, Maureen, and Aaron Nelson, our Director of Business Services, will be attending. And anyway, back to the resolutions, in review, and as you likely saw in your packet yourselves, there isn't really much that I would argue would be something we would want to stand in the way of or have significant concern over. I think all of them, in my opinion, were worthy resolutions and help inform the WASB's orientation in terms of their own policy development, advocacy, and approach in the coming year.
I just think we need to look at Resolution 22-02, annual inflationary or greater increases in per pupil spendable resources. We've been, the last couple of years, the CPI has been really, really low, but in June, I understand the CPI was 4.3%, so this could have a great effect on our budget. So let's hope the legislature goes along with this.
And I did receive an email that I forwarded to Craig and he sent on to John, asking us to support the WASB resolution regarding curriculum and professional training on Asian and Pacific Islanders. Went into some detail about discriminatory practices that have been taking place basically since the start of COVID-19, that there's been a lot of talk in the country about the virus and where it started, and that's trickled down to residents and how people are treated. And I don't think that speaks well for the people doing that, obviously. But we do have people of Asian heritage in our community, and I hope that it hasn't happened here. But I think that it's worthwhile to have that conversation and to support that resolution. That one was kind of unique. We haven't really had those in the past. They're usually more, around policies than they are with that. So, if anybody had anything else they wanted to share with?
Now, as far as when I look through them all, I have nothing that would not be supported.
In the past, we have made a motion for John to vote his conscience in support of these. I think that would be a worthwhile thing to do again. So I would make a motion that John Benbow vote his conscience in support of these resolutions when he's at the convention next week.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to have John Benbow vote his conscience in support of the WASB resolutions as printed tonight. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last item, discussion and possible action to approve an amendment to our 21-22 district budget.
Okay, in June of '21, we met and I provided a budget for you. And at that time, we didn't even have a state budget was approved. So we just had kind of a rough estimate of where things were going to be. We didn't know what our third Friday counts were going to be. We didn't know what our state aid was going to be. And our budget wasn't even finalized from last school year at that time. So over the summer, we continued to work on our budgets, our salary and benefit budgets, our department budgets, our building budgets, and then into the fall, we worked on the final grants and grant allocations to build those budgets. So overall, we were pretty close. The new budget is, Fund 10 budget is $71,288,000. The biggest variance was grants, ESSER funds. We didn't have that, or that was around $1 million additional dollars that was added to the budget. So that's Fund 10, and in regards to Fund 2020, there's some changes and some accounting rules that took place within the DPI, how we handle SAF or SBA student activity funds. Historically, those were handled through Fund 60. Well, this last year, we transitioned that, and we are now running them through Fund 21, and that's a DPI rule. So that's kind of the reason why you see a variance, that budget went up significantly. So all the buildings, whether it's senior high, middle school, so on, there's a lot of activity that takes place in these student activity funds. Revenues coming in, expenditures going out, so that's where we have to account for that as we go forward in the future. Fund 30, when I brought the budget to you, the referendum was passed, but we didn't have the, the financing documents as of yet, so that was just a kind of an estimate. So I had an estimate of what our principal and interest payments were gonna be. But one thing we had was a bond anticipation note. It was kind of a short-term note. And so we had that initial bond anticipation note, which we had those funds probably for a couple months, something like that. And then we had to repay those bonds until we got the long-term note. So you see, we had to count that as a revenue and count that as an expenditure going out. So that's why you see a large increase in Fund 30. Fund 40, the variance, there's 3 items going on in Fund 40. One is the bond or the referendum project. Second is the quadplex project. Third is the stadium project, all taking place there. So overall, the revenues, and most of that revenue is for the bond that we received for Fund 30. It was deposited into Fund 40 for the project. And then there was a decrease in expenditures. In the most part, the expenditures decreased just because our referendum project at senior high was pushed off a few months. So that decreased the expenditures that were going to take place this current school year. Food service fund, that went up a little bit. And what's happening there is our students are getting, throughout the district, their meals are being paid for by the federal government. And the federal government, the reimbursements are at a higher rate than what families would normally pay for the meal themselves. So we have more revenues coming in. The hard part that we have going on, we have more revenues, now we have to figure out how to spend those revenues. And so Lizzie is kind of going through her assets, her ovens, her cafeteria space, and trying to identify specific items that need to be replaced. And on the most part, a lot of our equipment is in good condition, so you hate to replace equipment that doesn't need to be replaced. So I don't anticipate we're going to fully spend that budget, but hopefully she'll identify some worthy projects that she can, so she can spend some of that fund balance.
Well, and to be noted, that's the reason for that is that the federal government requires the fund balance to be spent down to a certain limit. So
Right,
you can't
right.
just bank that.
Yeah, no, we want to spend it down, but if the equipment is in good shape, so yeah, we continue to work with Lizzie on that, and hopefully she can identify it, and they'll give us some time to spend it down. I don't think it'll all have to take place at the end of this school year.
And to refresh your memory too, Fund 50 dollars could only be spent on food services.
Right.
So there isn't any back and forth between our general fund budget, Fund 10 and Fund 50. It's standalone or sequestered, which makes it a little bit more complicated.
Right. Fund 70, that's our referendum, or not our fund, our post-retirement benefit fund. There's no large change there. And then finally, our community service fund, and there's no large changes within that fund. So that's an update of the budget, and this is what's currently on file with the DPI.
I would make a motion to approve the amended budget to amendment to the 2021-22 district budget.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the amendment to the 21-22 district budget. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Aaron. Looking ahead to the calendar, there is no school next Monday. And then the state convention is the 18th through the 21st, so I'll echo Troy's comments. Please have safe travels when you're there. And then that puts us out to February 7th with our committee meetings.
Did the closed session meeting go through, Maureen?
Yes, we do have a closed session meeting on the 25th.
7th,
Potentially,
24th.
potentially. So there's a possibility that that might not have
Okay.
to transpire, and
Okay.
we'll be in touch in that regard.
Okay. All right, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, your committee abandoned you today. Kept waiting for somebody to say second. It's like, oh, I better do it for her.